community outcry over the NYPD's actions in two separate incidents involving teens on the subway. Those incidents took place less than 24 hours apart, and now leaders are asking for action from the governor, the mayor, and the NYPD. So joining us this morning is former NYPD officer and current Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams. Good morning to you, sir.
Good to see you.
So let's talk first about the NYPD. You wasted no time calling for disciplinary action for this officer. And then last night, the NYPD came out with this response. I want to throw it up on the screen right now, talking about this, saying we have determined that while the review of this incident is ongoing, the officer will be placed in a non-enforcement assignment. That's what you were calling for.
Yes, yes. It was so important because if you look at the scene, you had one officer who had three separate contacts where he was extremely aggressive. If you take him out of that scenario, you saw a picture-perfect execution of the police department on how to isolate in this incident in a dangerous environment, because this was an extremely dangerous environment. That one officer aggravated the situation, and it could have turned into a riot.
So talk about what exactly the rights would be here for the individuals involved. I know you're having an event tonight to talk to youth about their rights when dealing with the NYPD, but it gets confusing, and when you look at this, what were their rights? And
it's very interesting. Keep in mind, young people don't know their rights on dealing with the police department because we have not taught them. And years ago, my organization, 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, we had these forums of what to do when stopped by the police. We have an entire generations of young people who were never given those instructions. It should be taught in schools. It should be taught at home. No one is giving them the instructions. So if you look at the tape, you see young people doing what young people do. They saw their friend was in harm's way. They went in to try to help. They didn't know you're not supposed to do that. They should have stood back. If they wanted to use cameras to video the situation, they could do so. But you can't engage yourself when a police officer is taking legal action. Let's look at what started that incident. A group of young people were assaulting one young girl. Someone sprayed mace in the subway system. Police responded. The police did what they were supposed to do, but we had an uneducated group of young people involved and a reckless officer, in my opinion, who
now, why would you say he's reckless? Because in the video, he immediately starts throwing punches. That was reckless in your part. But what if that officer felt like he was in danger?
If you look at the video, you'll see that all of the officers who were there, they were taking the action to subdue and to apprehend someone. That one officer in each scenario, it's the same officer that's punching three different people. That officer, see, he's not being threatened at all. He walked up to someone and punched him in the face for no reason at all. That young person was being passive. You don't use aggressive action on a passive resistor. That is where we go wrong far too often.
So being a former NYPD officer yourself, in your opinion, what are you calling then for the NYPD to do? Is this, besides putting him on modified duty, is there a retraining that needs to take place for many?
A combination. First of all, not only am I a former NYPD officer, I patrolled the trains. As a transit cop, I rode alone. I had encounters where I wrestled on a platform. I had encounters where I had people with knives in their hands, riding late at night. So I know what it is to be in these type of encounters. First, those officers came from the street. Patrolling the subway system is a different type of patrol. Officers must be trained on how to respond in the subway system. Then we must have a clear understanding. Young people are young people. Did we all forget? We were all young people. We were loud. We were boisterous. We did dumb things. You don't meet the ignorance of childlike behavior with aggressive violence like we saw there.
In that second incident, NYPD officers are swarming a teenager with their guns drawn. Was that the appropriate response in this situation?
I say yes. And people would look at it and say, well, that seemed over-aggressive. There was a gun run. If there's a call that someone is carrying a gun, those officers need to take as much precaution for not only the people on the train, but for themselves. No one knows if that person has a Uzi, a submachine gun. We don't know. When it comes down to a gun, all bets are off. You need to be as aggressive as possible to get that person under control, and then you can sort things out. And I know what it is to respond to a gun run and not know if that person is carrying a gun or not. I think those officers acted as the way they were trained to do so.
Two very different incidents, but you have two very different opinions.
In the subway system. And that is why I reinforced the governor, right decision of putting 500 cops, wrong decision of not allowing them to wear video cameras. If you are an officer on patrol, state police, or NYPD, you should have a video camera. This incident proves that is correct.
Understood. Okay, important event that you're having again today at Brooklyn Borough Hall. We're going to have all the details on the Know Your Rights for Youth event tonight, 4:30, Brooklyn Borough Hall. Eric Adams, thanks again for always coming in. Appreciate your time.